Well, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Guys, we got such exciting things going on right now. I almost don't feel like where to start, and I got so much in my head that I want to cover. But I'm Christopher Coakley, co-founder and president of Surge 365, here with you on Winners Win Live Saturday training. I hope these trainings have been hopeful. Coach did a phenomenal job last week, and I hope to do a decent job today. And then there'll be Coach again, and then there'll be some sprinkling of Scott. But guys, this is absolutely the place you want to rally your people to get training directly from the founders of the company. Let's talk about and do some house cleaning real quick of some things that are coming up. One on the second will be the world's largest Super Bowl travel party in Surge 365. You want to absolutely make sure you schedule your travel party for that weekend. You want to make sure that you have a ton of guests on the line to see Scott Thoma, our CEO, do the presentation and truly explain the Surge 365 opportunity. You want to make sure that you get as many people in front of that travel party as possible. And so guys, schedule your party, register your party with the home office so that they know that you're doing it, so that you can get travel vouchers for all your guests that come out and participate in your Super Bowl travel party. And then there's going to be some absolute bombshell special announcements that Scott's going to make that you are not going to want to miss. So make sure that you're planning and rallying for that weekend like you can't believe. Second thing, Miami. Miami is quickly approaching the Winners Win event, the place to get all of your major recognition. And guys, we're down to 100 seats left, and here's what I know for sure. And listen to me, guys, that's not a marketing gimmick. That's the reality. Once these 100 seats are sold, it's a wrap. And I know a lot of people like to wait to the last minute. And I also know that a lot of you that are in the top five and are getting recognition, you got to remember you must be registered by the 31st of this month to ensure that you get that recognition. We need time to order the different things that we have for you. And if you don't register by the 31st, then the next person moves up into your slot and they get the recognition. So you don't want to miss recognition that you worked so hard to get because you did not register in time to get that recognition. So everyone who knows you're getting recognition or even suspects that you're getting recognition, you want to make sure you are registered by the 31st. Everyone who intends to be there to support their leaders, their uplines, their downlines, you want to make sure you get registered really quick, that you get one of those last 100 seats. This is going to be a blowout event. We had such a phenomenal December and January that this is probably going to be the most recognition we've given out in a very, very long time in Miami. On top of the fact that it's Valentine's week, so you can make it a great Valentine's Day. On top of the fact that you're in Miami Beach, beautiful weather. On top of the fact that it's going to end with the wedding of one of our directors, and you get an opportunity to participate and be at their wedding ceremony. This is just going to be a magical event, weekend like you can't believe. So you want to make sure you don't miss that. So let me tell you what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about kind of the philosophy of network marketing and doing business. And there's been an age-old debate about, do you lead with the product or do you lead with the business opportunity when it comes to introducing the business to people, when it comes to inviting people to take a look at what we do. And the truth of the matter is, both ways work. But you got to figure out which way works best for what you're trying to do. See, our company was set up to be a business opportunity. And in order for you to build a business and retain successful people, you got to be based on and focused on a business opportunity. But we've got one of the sexiest products in the world, and that's travel. And it's difficult not to talk about it, and it's difficult not to share our incredible pricing, and it's difficult not to get really excited about the ability to travel the world for pennies on a dollar and go to all the places you always dreamed of going. And travel is most people's ultimate goal. They work hard to save money to be able to retire one day so they can travel. And we're saying to them now, you don't have to wait until you're retired. You can build a business that makes you money and gives you the time freedom to travel now while you can enjoy it at its absolute maximum. That is our product. And so it's so attractive that you just want to talk about it. But when you look at the business opportunity, when you look at the philosophy of getting people started in business, here's what you have to understand. The way you get someone started or introduced to this business is the way they think they need to introduce people to this business. And so you have to be careful the example you set. See, when I first started in this industry, I was in the financial service side of it. Our service was finance, insurance, investments, mutual funds, that type of thing. And, there were people who focused on the product and they made good money. They used to give an example in training where they would say, you could knock on doors and just go, you wouldn't happen to want any life insurance, would you? And eventually somebody would say, I was just thinking about getting some life insurance. We were just having that conversation, me and my spouse. We actually would like to get a quote on some life insurance, and you would be invited in and actually probably end up making the sale. But if you turn around to that person afterwards and said, what I do is really lucrative, would you like to go into business and do the same thing I do? What would pop in their mind would be, you want me to knock on doors of strangers and say you wouldn't want any life insurance, would you? And most of them would say no. So although you were successful at making the sale, you would be unsuccessful at recruiting and building a business using that technique. Now, the technique worked. You made a sale. You made money. But you didn't build a business. And that's always the dilemma when you think of, do I lead with a product or do I lead with the business opportunity? When you lead with the product, you can typically easily get people to buy. But those people never quite see themselves doing the business. But when you lead with the business opportunity, then their whole interest, their whole focus is on learning how to build a business to make money. You also have a different type of person that gets excited and is interested. See, I always believe what it takes to be successful in business is you got to find somebody that's sick and tired of being sick and tired. You got to find somebody that don't like their current financial situation. You got to find somebody that's so fed up they're willing to do something about it. It doesn't take those same characteristics to find somebody who would like to get discounts on their travel or to find somebody who would like to win a free trip. See, those people usually aren't upset about anything. And so there's literally two different markets of people who respond when you lead with travel as opposed to leading with a business opportunity. And that plays a large role also in your retention of people. Because people who like to save money on travel but don't travel very often are more likely to say, well, rather than continue to pay every month not knowing any idea of when I'm going to use it, why don't I just shut it down and I'll start it back up when I'm ready to start traveling? And so you have more people who turn their businesses off in the first 30 to 60 days if they don't already have a trip in mind. And let me share something with you guys. Everybody likes talking about travel. Everybody wants to travel for cheaper, but most people don't have the money or time freedom from their job to do it. So they'll get all excited and you may even get them to join. But a lot of times they come to the realization later that they really don't know when they're going to get another time to travel, when they're going to have the time off, or when they're going to have enough money saved to do it. And so you have a higher ratio of people who don't keep the product because they're associating it with the use. When am I going to use it? When you build and you focus on the business opportunity and you lead with the business opportunity, now they see the cost as the cost of doing business. They see the monthly cost as the overhead for keeping their business open so that they have the potential to make money. See, you never say, I don't want to make money this month, maybe I'll shut it down, and when I am ready to make money, that's not a logical train of thought. When you're in business, you got to be open every month. You got to pay the rent on your building every month. You've got to pay your overhead, your electricity, your lights, your supplies every month. And regardless of how many people patronize your business, until your business gets enough clientele that it becomes profitable. That's a different mindset that people will tend to stay engaged or at least stay open a lot longer. So I say all this to say that the way that you introduce people to this business has a lot to do with the type of people that you end up introducing, how hungry they are, how hard working they are, and how long they stay and give it a chance to be successful. All of that plays into your introduction of how you bring someone to this business. So guys, I know it's easier, but since when has the easier path been the right path to achieve something great? There's no easy path to becoming wealthy. There's no easy path to making a six-figure income. There's no easy path. So when you are faced with easy and harder, you got to know harder is probably the right path than the easier path. And so many people are turning to, let's just talk about the travel because it's easier, but then they never duplicate themselves. They're not building enough people who stay long enough to get promoted or to become directors. And so then you end up spinning your wheels. You know, Eric Worre said it probably best recently when he said, network marketing without duplicating yourself is just another job. See, what makes this a great opportunity is you can build a business and you can leverage other people. See, you can get 1% of 100 people's effort instead of just 100% of your own. And that allows you to build a business that the more successful people you create, the more successful you become, and the more time freedom you have to enjoy that success. That's the reason you want to duplicate yourself. Or, like most salespeople, you're only as good as your last sale. You got to start all over every day. See, once you sell that and make that money, how you going to make your next money? Got to sell again and sell again and sell again. So every day that you wake up, you're unemployed if you don't build a business that sustains itself. You understand what I'm saying? You want to get to a point where you've got 7 to 10 directors who make a six-figure income. Because people who make a six-figure income, guess what? They very rarely quit. Very rarely. Here's another thing about people who are making a six-figure income. They very rarely need your help. They're pretty independent. So if you've got 7 to 10 people who make $100,000 a year that you override, which allows you to make a high six-figure income, and they're independent and don't really need your help, so you could work from the beach and be available for calls and have your laptop, or you can work from some of the most exotic places in the world. That's what you're building. And not just that, so you can be at all of your kids' events, or so you can be at all their sporting events or their dance recitals or their piano recitals, or so you can be there for family members when they need you. You know, it was so vital when my mom was sick that I'd be there as much as I could and be there to help her and take her to a doctor's appointment. And thank God I had a business strong enough that my income didn't drop because of my absence when I had to take care of a family member or take care of things. See, that's what you're building for. Nobody wants to keep having to do this forever. Your objective is to work yourself out of a job. And that's why your philosophy going forward is so important. See, think about how our society thinks. Most people are absolutely horrified of sales. Most people are absolutely horrified of having to talk to strangers. And most people have too much pride to do certain things in certain jobs. So when you approach people, remember they're looking at you and going, that's what I'm going to have to do. If that's what you're doing, then it's obviously what I'm going to have to do. So if you're standing outside of the door of Walmart waiting for people to come out to hand them a flyer, you may eventually get somebody who take that flyer, read it, and go, yeah, that sounds interesting, and show up. So it worked. But very few people will say, yeah, I'm willing to do this as a business where I'll stand outside of Walmart and hand out flyers. So although it worked to make the sale, does it work to make the recruit? And so everything you do, you got to think of my example. Knock, knock, knock. You wouldn't want any life insurance, would you? See, eventually somebody will say yes. But almost nobody will say yes to do the same thing as the way that they make their money. So be very cognizant of your introduction. And so I'm going to go into a little bit more of how to, because we've got such major events coming up that it's very, very important that you understand how to invite people to these events, and that as you go forward, that you really do focus on how you introduce people to these events. And guys, listen to me. The worst thing you can ever do in a recruiting or sales situation is bait and switch someone. See, don't say, hey, I'm going to show you how to make money is selling cruises. And then when they say, okay, great, I'm interested, then you go, okay, let me get your list of people so we can get you 3 and free and get you a bonus and get, because they're going, hold up, that's not what you said. You said you were going to show me by myself how to make money in cruises. And so, guys, you can't sell the travel and then switch them to the business opportunity, because most people won't switch easily. See, if you find yourself having introduced this to people based upon travel and now you're having a tough time getting them to do a list or to, it's because they did not anticipate having to do all of that to be able to sell a cruise. They didn't anticipate that they're going to have to recruit people or talk to their friends and family. See, now you're trying to switch them. And we understand why. I mean, let's face it, you know how travel works. You know, first you have to book something and then they have to go on the actual trip. And then 1 to 2 months after they go on the trip is when you get paid. So to get someone to spend, you know, 177, 277, or 477 and spend, you know, $60 a month for 2 to 3 or 4 months before they can even make a paycheck is a tough sale. But it's going to be even tougher to switch them. And that's what you sell them on. That's what you have to teach them how to do. And if you try to switch them to a business opportunity, I'm not saying it's impossible. And let me say this as I go forward. There is exceptions to everything. You could find a person and it don't matter what you say to them, they'll win. There's an exception to everything. But that's an exception, not the rule. You will not find it often enough to be successful as a business. So don't build your business on exceptions. Build it on the rule and be appreciative when an exception comes along. Because that's really how this business works. There's always somebody. You know, when I first came in the industry, they didn't hire people younger than 25. And it's because it was in the financial service industry and it required you to be very responsible and extremely meticulous. And you had to get people 2 to 3 times your age to trust you with their insurance and their retirement and their investments. So they wanted stable adults that were married, that owned homes and had substantial incomes were the best recruits because they would be the ones talking to their peers. And here I was, this 19-year-old, not married, no kids, no house, living in the dorms on a college campus, no money, totally broke, but excited. And they said, he'll never make it. But somebody said, well, let's give him a shot and see. And so they signed a special permission slip for me to sign up. And I began my career trying to prove that age didn't matter. And I became the exception to the rule. See, I understand that because they hired a few of us very young to see if we would still make it. And years later, none of those other young people were there. When I looked around, I ended up becoming the youngest, vice president of the company, and the youngest senior vice president, and one of the youngest national sales reps. I ended up being the youngest in each category that I excelled because most of the other young people did not make it. I quickly realized I was the exception, not the rule. And so that still exists today. You will find exceptions to every rule. So everything I say in this training, none of it is definitive, meaning absolute. There will be exceptions to everything I say. Somebody will come along and be the complete opposite of everything I said. Somebody will come along that'll join for travel and end up building a business. But it'll be an exception. It will not be the rule. So when it comes to recruiting and inviting, let me start with a few things that I really think are important. And that is, the first off is family and friends. In this industry that's now been around for quite some time, more and more people are hesitant to talk to their family and friends about anything network marketing because they feel that in most cases your family and friends don't support you, give you the most crap, and make your life difficult. And a lot of times it's true. But a lot of times it's true because of how you introduce the business to them. And so if you're a brand new person looking at this video, before you run off to your family and friends and try to explain to them how you're going to be rich and you found the answer and you found the key and they better listen to you, take the opposite approach. See, if you're doing this business, set up your travel party for the second. And then go to your closest friends and family members and say, I need your help. Would you help me? And most of them would say yes. And then say, I started a new business and I'd really like you to take a look at it and tell me what you think and whether it be a good fit for me. Could you do that? And most of your friends and family members who care about you will say yes. And then you set up the time and place that they need to either come to your home to watch this virtual travel party with you, or however you're plugging them in. If you're taking them with you to your regional builder or team national builder or team builder or sponsor's house, then you set it up for them to go with you. And that's all you really need to say. You may want to add, if they're going to be going somewhere outside of your house, or if you're going to have one of your leaders at your house, that I really want to introduce you to my mentor or trainer that'll be able to answer any questions you might have after you take a look at it. Hey, at the very least, just for taking a look at it, they're going to give you a free $500 cruise voucher that the next time you decide to take a cruise or vacation, you'll get a huge discount. See, a lot of people, because of their pride, because of their ego, don't want to ask for help. They want to go in and know what they're talking about and explain it. But what you have to understand when it comes to your family, it doesn't matter how much you know. You're still always going to be little Chris to them. Just that's who you are. I'm the youngest of 4 children. My brothers and sisters feel like whatever I know, they already know it. I have a degree, I have a doctorate, that don't matter to them. I'm still Chris. And so at 19, when I was getting started in business, they didn't want to hear anything I had to say about being successful in business. They were all grown with their own families and their own children, their own houses. What could I possibly know? I'm not even out of college yet. So I didn't take the approach that I'm going to go educate them. I took the approach that I need their help. Now they're used to and they're prepared to help the youngest. That makes more sense. And so I got more friends and family to look. Didn't get a whole lot more to support, but they at least look, and some of them referred other people, and some of them got involved for at least some period of time. But that helped me launch my career. So if you're new, don't worry about understanding everything and trying to explain everything. What you need to do is ask more people for help than you've ever asked before. And the only help you need is, I've always respected your opinion. Just want you to take a look at something. Take a look at a business I just started and tell me what you think and whether I'd be good at it. Could you do that for me? That's it. And I'm going to fill the room with all my friends and family for my first travel party. And at the very least, they'll know what I'm doing. They can refer people who they hear talking about travel. They can refer people who are looking for a business opportunity and want to make more money. And or they may join themselves and become part of our team. But I want to make sure at the very least, I give at least as many of them as possible an opportunity to look at it. What you don't want to do is get started, build a business, be successful, and then have your friends and family go, why you never tell me about it? Why didn't you ever explain it to me? So you want to put together the biggest list of names of people you know and that know you, and you want to ask for help to get as many of those people to take a look at the business opportunity. Guys, the business opportunity is a no-brainer. People will make up their own minds once they've been given the opportunity to look. You just want to be the greatest inviter. See, some of you think I got to become the greatest speaker, the greatest presenter. You can be very successful here if you become the greatest inviter in this business. Invite people to take a look at the business for the first time. Invite people to come with you to Miami to the Winners Win event. Invite people to come with you to the convention. Invite people to come to weekly meetings. Invite people onto conference calls. Invite people onto webinars. Invite people onto Zooms. If you become the greatest inviter of all time, you will be one of the most successful people here. Because that's truly what this is all about. If you can invite people, there's other people who will do the Zoom or do the presentation. There'll be other great people that will do the conventions and do the Winners Win events. And there's people who will do the Winners Win live training. You just got to invite your team on it so they get the information. So what are you really trying to be? You're trying to be the greatest inviter there's ever been. And then along the way, you'll learn to become a great presenter, a great closer. All those things will come or they won't. You may never become great at those things and still make a fortune. Because you'll recruit people who'll become great. You'll recruit people that'll be better at it than you'll ever be. And it's not required that you be better. It's required that you find people that are better. Does that make sense? Is any of that making sense? I hope so, guys, because that's really the philosophy you got to have about why you're recruiting and why you're building. Now let's go into real world battle, which is people that you don't know, people that you're going to meet along the way. And a lot of times these are going to be some of the people that will be very successful in your business. And this is where you've got to decide, how am I going to introduce this business to people? What's going to be my system that makes it comfortable and is very duplicatable? And that's what you've got to decide. The, I believe, the more direct and is going to be the hardest to duplicate. The more by the way tends to be something more people are comfortable with and more duplicable. Let me give you two examples. I can see someone and I can walk up to them and go, "Do you like to travel?" And they may say yes or they may say no. And then I say, "Well, if I can show you how to make money and travel or travel for cheaper, would you be interested?" And they may say yes. And then you go, "Well, we have a meeting on Thursday I'd like you to come to. Here's my card. What's your name and number? And I'll give you more information." Now, will that work sometime? Absolutely. But will most people see themselves being able to walk up to a stranger and say, "Do you like to travel?" Not most. I'd venture to say probably 98% of the people will go, "I will never walk up to a stranger and say anything." That's just mindset. Now, how do we make that a by the way situation? If I'm there, that stranger's there. And we start a conversation about anything. "Boy, the weather sure is nice." "Yeah, it's been cold the last few days, but today is pretty gorgeous." "Do you live around here?" "Yeah, from this area, born and raised." Oh. "So how are the taxes with the homes, or how are the school systems, or any of these basic questions that people tend to be very comfortable talking about and aren't very evasive, but they are very, very informative. If someone can tell me how the taxes are on the homes, then they probably own a home. People who rent usually don't know the tax situation on home ownership. So if they tell me the answer to that, then I know they probably own a home. If they know more about the school systems, then they may typically have children. People who don't have children don't usually check out the school systems of where they live. So I just found out, those two things. I can ask another follow-up question like, "Do your spouse work in the area?" At which point they're going to either have a spouse or tell me where their spouse works, or they may not have one. So I know if they're married, if they have children, I know if they own a home. And then I can transition by saying, "By the way, you seem like a very sharp person. Maybe you can help me out. My company's expanding in the area, and we're looking for people who'd be interested in making an extra $1,500 to $2,000 a month part-time. Would you know anybody that'd be interested in that?" At which point they will say no, or they will say me. Either one, I'm going to say, "Well, here's my name and number. How can I reach you? If someone comes to mind, I'd like you to be able to refer them." If they say them, I'm going to say, "Great, here's my name and number. In the next 24 to 48 hours, I'll give you a call to share with you some more information." Is that fair enough? And I'm going to shake their hand and move on. Now, one way was very direct. Works, but requires a lot of confidence, which we all know confidence is what a lot of people don't have. The second way is very by the way. It's almost as if this conversation happened by accident because we both just happen to be in the same line or at the same store. They don't even realize they've been recruited. But it's a technique that they also will be probably more comfortable using. And so you've got to decide. I'm not telling you which one to use. You got to decide which one you want to use and understand that if you're going to be very direct, you have to train people to be direct and to reject rejection and to, be prepared to deal with the reaction of most people. And if you're going to do by the way, then you have to just train people to go through the numbers. You typically don't get a lot of rejection because you haven't asked for anything. I said, do you know anyone that might be interested? I didn't say, are you interested? So there's nothing to reject. If they say, I don't know anyone, I'm still going to exchange information because someone may come up later. And they're comfortable with that because, again, I'm not asking them for anything directly. And if they volunteer me, I need an extra $1,500 to $2,000 a month, then they recruited themselves. So they can't reject me when they're the ones who volunteered. So there's ways to introduce people to this business based on a business opportunity that is very duplicatable. And people are a lot more comfortable doing. And therefore, they're more willing to try. And then the people that they try it with are going to be more willing to try. And the people that they try it with is going to be more willing to try. And that's how you begin to build a business. So I just really wanted you to understand the importance of how you introduce this business and how much that has to do with your retention and duplicating yourself. You got to keep it simple if you want people to duplicate it. And you got to keep it close to the nature of people if you want people to duplicate it. You cannot get caught up in money because money does not necessarily translate to success. See, we had a guy in the first business I was in. His name was, I'll just say Larry. And he was a great personal producer. He would go out and sell enough life insurance and investments that he made $20,000 to $30,000 a month. But because he was such a salesman, which wasn't duplicatable, most people aren't good at sales and don't like sales, aren't even willing to try or learn sales. But he was one of those people that was good at it. But it was not duplicatable. But he would make $25,000 to $30,000 a month. And he did that for almost 2 years before he burned out and he ended up quitting the business. Now he made over $200,000 a year for 2 years. Most people go, how could you ever quit that? Well, he worked 20 hours days. He never saw his wife and kids. He was always having to look for the next sale because he didn't get many recruits. So he worked his fingers to the bone selling. He ended up not very happy. He had money, but he couldn't enjoy it. He never duplicated himself, so he never saw it ending. So 2 years in, he just gave up. See, every day that you don't duplicate yourself and build, you're unemployed, and that means you have to keep doing it. I had a 19-year career with that company. I spent the first 10 years training people, going out into the field, teaching people, recruiting, building, all of that stuff. I spent the second 9 years overriding it. I didn't go out in the field anymore. I didn't write life insurance applications anymore. I worked myself out of a job, and then I became the manager, the officer of supervisory jurisdiction to make sure everybody was doing things legally. I was the upline, and I would show up and close meetings and close trainings and and I became the ambassador of the business. I didn't have to do the business. See, because I duplicated myself, I became a vice president and I promoted 37 vice presidents, and then I became a senior vice president and we promoted 11 or 12 senior vice presidents. Then I became a national sales director and we promoted a couple of national sales directors. See, I duplicated myself at every level. We used to have a saying, you aren't one till you create one. See, you're not a vice president until you create one, because when you create one is when it proves you truly understand how, the philosophy behind how you got there. You didn't just stumble there by luck. So when you create one, that means you got it. Now you move to the next level. And you're not a senior vice president till you create one. So once you become a senior vice president, then you learn the philosophy of how that happened and you share it with others until they become senior vice presidents. And that makes you a bona fide senior vice president because you understand how it happened. And then you become a national sales director, and then you're not a national sales director till you create one. And so now you begin to teach everything you've learned at that level to everybody in your team until a few of them pop their heads up and become national sales directors. And the most important thing you've done in that process is you've worked yourself out of a job, because these people now make income and understand how they got to where they are and how to teach others, and they don't need you there all the time. That's what you're trying to build. So my last 9 years of that 19-year career was awesome. My income kept going up, yet my work schedule was decreasing. Or at the very least, it changed from being at people's kitchen tables in their homes to only being at meetings and events, to having to drive miles going out to do appointments with people, to only having to be at events. So that's what your goal, that's what you're striving to build, that's going to make this awesome. Your job should keep changing the longer you're here, if you're doing it right. If you're not, your job will remain the same no matter how long you're here. You'll still have to go find a new recruit, build that person in your team, build a group, and help them get to the next level, and then go find it. You'll keep doing that if you don't replace yourself. Now, for some people, that's fine. With the amount of money they make, they don't mind keep doing that. But I think most of us would like to have the money and the time freedom to go sit on the beach and let it compound. And so that's what we need to do. So I'm going to run through some principles as I begin to wrap up that I think are important when it comes to building your business. You know, when you understand that the reason why you recruit is because it's the best way to find prospects that you can build a business with. You got to remember that. It's a great way to get referrals when you say to people, who do you know? You know, some people are going to say, oh, I have a cousin who just lost their job, or I have a friend who, you know, isn't getting paid because of the government shutdown, or I have and they refer you to somebody who's very interested in an extra $1,000 to $2,000 or extra $1,500 to $2,000 a month. So it's a great way to get referrals. When you're getting referrals, that means you're still in a warm market. So you may have met that person as a stranger, but when they start giving you referrals, they're giving you people they know. So now you have someone who can introduce you, someone who endorses you. So you're no longer in a cold market. You switch right back into a warm market, which is where you want to be. You want to be in a warm market as much as possible when you're building a business. That is the sweet spot that makes what would otherwise be a slow process fast. Because I can do your travel party and 3 or 4 of your friends and family join, and then I can do each one of their travel parties, and 3 or 4 of each one of their friends and family joins, and then I can set up each one of their travel parties, and 3 or 4 of their friends and family joins, and then I can set up each one of their travel parties. And before you know it, 3 turned into 9 to 27 to 81 to 264 to 700 to 50. You see what I mean? And otherwise what would be looked at as a slow process can literally become an explosion. But when you go out and meet strangers as your primary way, you got to build rapport. You got to build a relationship. You got to invest time. for them to be comfortable enough to then open their warm market and allow you to go back to the fast process. And unfortunately, too many people take strangers and try to go to the fast process without spending that time building rapport, building a relationship, building trust, building understanding. And that's what you have to do if you want that warm market to blossom for you and allow you in. So that's part of the process. Hey, like I just said, when you focus on a business opportunity, it helps your retention. So many people right now are talking about, I need to keep more people, and how do we help keep our people? And you're looking at the product, and you're looking at the comp plan, and you're looking at all these outside things and mobile coach, and when the real retention problem is how you're bringing them in. If you're bringing them in the wrong way, they won't stay. And it doesn't matter how the product works or what the comp plan says or how many tools like mobile coaching put in place. If I am brought in the wrong way, I am getting mixed messages. I'm confused. If I'm confused, I typically leave things that confuse me. So, and I know there's other ways too, guys, that I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on. But, if you're paying for people to join, listen to me, guys, paying for people to join typically doesn't work. Is there an exception? Sure, there'd be an exception of somebody you might help get in that ends up really, really applying themselves and becoming a superstar. But most of the time, if they don't have skin in the game, if they're not willing to come up with their own money to get started, chances are they're not going to stay. So if you're paying for a lot of people to get in, if you're giving people money, you're going to have a higher fall off. Your retention's going to be low because most people don't mind quitting and losing your money, but very few like quitting and losing their money. And so depending on whether that's how you introduce them, will have a lot to do with your retention. So there's a lot of little things. But you got to make sure you're bringing people in the right way. Bring them in on a business opportunity. Make sure they make a decision to join and use their own money to get started. Now you've increased the odds that you're going to find a superstar in that batch. And that's what you're looking to do, or else you'll be working for the rest of your life. And that's not the game plan, right? So those are some important principles to make sure that we got in place. You got to remember this, guys. You're always one recruit away from an explosion. It doesn't take you finding 20, 30, 40, 50 people to get your business. You're one recruit away from an explosion. You just need to find one. You bump into one person who's sick and tired of being sick and tired. You bump into one superstar that's been looking for, praying for. They started this morning off saying, God, give me a vision of an opportunity that could help me, pay my mortgage, that can help me pay my car note, that can help me get out of debt, that can help me pay for my kids' education. If you show me, I promise I'll give it everything I got. See, somebody prayed that prayer today. And if you bump into that person, you may have a person that will look at this business, see what the value, and take off like you can't believe. And if you support them, if you train them, if you help them, if you invite them, you can explode your business and make a six-figure income just helping that one person get off to a fast start. So guys, remember, you're only one person away. Don't beat yourself up. One. And then here's what you do for that one. Set a standard of excellence. You always be excited. You always be positive. You make sure you go to every event. Because if you do that, then they'll do that. And now they have a greater chance at succeeding. See, you set the standard. You set the pace. You're on every conference call. You're at every training. And they'll duplicate you. Hey, monitor your team's growth. How do you monitor your team's growth? At events. See, you can tell if your team is growing or if it's dying by how many people did you have at Winners Win Vegas and how many are you going to now have at Winners Win Miami? How many people did you have at your weekly meeting last week and how many people you're going to have at your weekly meeting this week? See, if you measure every meeting to see if your numbers are going up or not, will determine whether your team's growing and let you know whether you need to make an adjustment to get more people. See, a lot of people think that the number of their team is however many people are showing up in their back office as active. That's not the real number, because paying doesn't mean active. Paying doesn't mean they're recruiting. Paying doesn't mean they're doing anything. See, showing up means they're trying, they're engaging, they're going for it. If you're never measuring attendance, you really don't know the size of your team. You could have 50 paying and 2 that's actually in your team. You could have 500 paying and 50 that's actually engaged that's in your team. And then you're wondering why your numbers are so bad for 500. Well, really, your numbers are based on 50, because that's who's showing up and engaged. The other 450 are just paying. So make sure you have a handle on your team and your team's growth. Build with events. Build your business with events. Now listen to me. Surge events. You have to build your business with surge events. Don't try to build your business with your team going to see every speaker. And I love, the Les Browns and the Anthony Robbins and those things are great. But those are personal decisions. I think every person should work on self-improvement. And if you need those type of seminars and workshops, which I went to a lot of them growing in the business. I went to Anthony Robbins and Tom Hopkins and I did, but I never tried to take my team. I let people know where I went, and if they wanted to go, they went. But I rallied my team to company events. I made sure they were going. I helped them make reservations. I helped them get flights. I helped them get hotels. I inspected what I expected, and I expected every one of them to go to every company event. Because that's building our business. Outside events is personal improvement. Now you need both. As a leader, you got to personally improve. But as a builder, you got to build from event to event. So make sure you separate the two. You miss all the company events, but you go to outside events. That's not, it'll help you personally develop, but it won't grow your team. So you got to have that balance as you're going forward with that. You got to understand that recruiting and building is what provides unlimited income. Guys, there's no check size the company won't write if you build the team. You can make a 6-figure income. You can make a 7-figure income. You could become a presidential director and get a 7-figure bonus. Guys, it's unlimited. You could go on over the next 5 or 10 years and make $5, $10, $15 million if you're willing to do the work and build the business. Recruiting is what allows your income to be unlimited. So don't fight against it. Embrace it and learn and practice, drill, and rehearse until you become comfortable and good, and it becomes second nature and you don't have to think about it. It just becomes surgical. It becomes a part of who you are. It doesn't matter where I am and who I'm talking to. At some point, I'm going to go, by the way, you seem like a really sharp person. Maybe you can help me out. My company's expanding in the area, and we're looking for people that might be interested in a career change if the money was right. You know anybody that might be interested in that? Great. Here's my name and number. How can I reach you? In the next 24 to 48 hours, I'll give you a call with more information. What do I do when I call? I go, hey, John, remember me? I'm Chris, the guy you met at the bank. Oh, hey, Chris, how's it going? Man, I've really been thinking about how sharp you were, and I'd really love an opportunity to introduce you to my business partner, my mentor, my trainer, whatever title you want to use. Are you available on Thursday evening around 6 or 7:30? You are? Great. And then I'm going to proceed to first of all say, would it be better if I pick you up or that you follow me there? That's what I'm going to say. My mentor's going to be at the Hyatt Regency on Thursday night at 7:30. Would it be best that I pick you up, or would you rather follow me there? And if they say pick them up, get their address, scoop them up. If they say follow me there, I'm going to pick a point close to the Hyatt, not too far away, for them to meet me at so they can follow me there. Or, well, I'll swing by and you can follow me there. It's second nature. I don't have to think about it. I just know that if you say something to me, anything, whether it's hi, or the weather's great, or boy, this line is long, or anything, I'm going to engage that conversation. And at some point, I'm going to go, you seem like a sharp person. Every time. By the way, you seem like a sharp person. Maybe you can help me out. Every time. Don't even got to wonder what I'm going to say. Don't have to think of something. Don't get confused and fumble over my words. By the way, you seem like a sharp person. Maybe you can help me out. My company's expanding in the area. Looking for people interested in making an extra $2,000 to $3,000 a month. You know anybody that might be interested in that? No? Fine. Look, here's my contact information. How can I get in touch with you? If somebody comes to mind or different positions open up, I'll give you a call. It was really a pleasure meeting. If they say me, great. Here's my contact information. In the next 24 to 48 hours, I give you a call. Hey, my mentor's going to be at the Hyatt Regional on Thursday. Oh, Thursday doesn't work for me. I'm not available. Well, John, let me ask you a question. Are you near a computer now? Well, as a matter of fact, I am. Great. Go to this website and give them your website and let them watch the video while you're on the phone talking to them. Or set them up to watch the video and say, John, when you're done, give me a call back if you have any questions. Or, John, I'll follow up with you in 5 to 10 minutes when the video's over. See, if you practice, drill, and rehearse, you can become surgical at the technique you decide to use that helps you build your business. And that your people who see you use it go, I can do that. And now you've got a duplication process going that'll take your business to the next level. Hey guys, listen, recruiting is what builds security. You heard me say it earlier. If you got 7 to 10 vice presidents who make 6-figure income, it almost doesn't matter if you show up to work or not. They're going to keep building for their families. They're not here for you. They're here for themselves. You got to remember, you're building a company within a company. Everything that you see that we have and that we provide, one day you'll provide for your people. So learn, absorb, pick up on everything and follow the systems that we put in place. Hey, look, the number one recruiter will always become the number one producer at some point. And then that person will become the number one money earner. See, it's only a matter of time. If somebody else is number one earner, but somebody else is number one recruiter over and over and over again, that person will eventually become top producer and top money earner. It's only a matter of time. So learn recruiting, because it will lead you to all those other positions along the way. And guys, as I wrap up, remember this as your motivation. When people say no and people reject it and people aren't interested, you're doing this now so you don't have to do it forever. See, you'll get to a point where you don't have to recruit anymore. You'll get to a point where it just won't even make sense to recruit anymore. See, I remember the business I was in, we were going to people's homes selling life insurance. But once you start making 6 and 7 figures, it really isn't, it's not even safe for you to drive around going to people's houses anymore. See, you work yourself out of a job. If that's not worth the people who say no, or the people who aren't interested, or the people who say you're in that thing, or the people that might give you a little rejection, or the people who say I don't do network marketing, you got to remember there's going to come a point where you're going to have everything you ever dreamed for. You're going to have the income that allows you to be an incredible example in your community. And you don't even have to do this anymore. You don't have to recruit another soul if you do it right the first time. If you give it everything you got the first time. That's the key to taking this to the next level, is doing it right the first time. The next time I get together with you, I'm going to talk to you about how to determine who you invest your time in training and developing. How do you pick? I mean, we know there's never been a test devised to determine the heart of a man or a woman. You can't just look at somebody and figure out if they're a tiger. But there's some techniques to determine whether you more than likely have a tiger or whether you just got a nice little cuddly koala bear. And you want to make sure you're spending your time training the tigers and hugging the koala bears. Some of you are training the koala bears and trying to hug the tigers. And we're going to straighten that out and show you how to accelerate the building process, the training process, the mentoring process. Thanks for spending this morning with me at the Winners Win Live. You got Coach Lloyd Tomer next week. I'll see you guys then. Bye.